guys, what's up? Thank you so much for tuning in today here at Elevate Church. We know that today's message is going to rock your world and elevate you to the next level in your life. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the message.
You know, as we're going on this I Believe series, I just think it's so perfect timing to remind the body that it is crucial in this time, in this year, that we know what we believe. That we know and we are confident in what we believe. I think it's crucial for us to be reminded as we just came out of a year of invasion into the promises of God, that we are confident that what we believe is truly something that we believe in, that it truly exists. And that it's not just a fragment of our imagination, that it's not just this lingo, this vocabulary that we learned while hanging out with each other, that it's not just this lifestyle that we've learned from watching posts on Facebook or whatever God TV and whatever it is. We're a church that believes the truth of Jesus Christ. And I say that because I know, I myself have to remind myself this year what I believe in. I have to remind myself. I don't know about you, but I have had countless conversations probably over the past 2 or 3 months with several people expressing how difficult 2016 really was. I mean, I'm not just talking about the church. I'm not just talking about within the body of believers. I'm talking about even in the world. I'm talking about on Facebook. Everywhere you turn, it seems like as though everyone is talking about how 2016 was rough. I mean, they've made all kinds of videos about it, excerpts of events that took place in this year. Tons of bad news, tons of bad reports, and everyone just seems to be refreshed almost to step out of 2016 to start over into this new year. I was actually having a very interesting conversation with my barber when I was getting my haircut, and they were talking about I was getting ready to get my haircut, and I noticed that their chair was actually not where it usually is, and so I was just curious and wondered what happened, if they were late on their rent or something. I don't know. So I was wondering what happened, and they were like, oh, we're just changing some new things for the new year. And it was very like a mask kind of to what was really going on. Like, yeah, we're just changing some new things, new stuff. And they just went about their business. And then immediately following that, they began to tell me these exact words, that the past 4 months were the toughest months I've ever experienced in my life. That 2016 was a year that I don't want to look back at. And following those words, They even said, as far as I don't normally cry, but I can't believe how much I cried in the past 4 months. And I'm hearing this from someone, they don't go to Elevate Church. They haven't been preached to about invading the promises of God. Whether they've been hearing messages of hope or faith, I don't know. But I'm hearing this, and I'm like, man, this sounds all too familiar with several conversations I've had with even believers. That I can't believe I experienced the frustration that I did this past year. I can't believe I experienced this disappointment. And I'm sure that there's some of you here today that feel and I love the way my barber told me, they said it like this. They said, it's almost like I have rollover minutes from 2016 into 2017 and not pretty ones. It's almost like I have like extra vacation days that I don't want to use. You got this excess, this residue lingering, and there might be some of you here today that are feeling like that, like there's this lingering of a challenge that you face that you've conquered, but you just can't quite seem to shake it. It's haunting you. It's facing you off as though it's inviting you to come and invite it into this year. And many of you have put up fights and said no. Everyone around you is celebrating the end of 2016, and here we are 2 weeks into the new year. Everyone's broadcasting their great plans that they have for the rest of the year. They're broadcasting all the great kickoff to the year, and you might be sitting there like, man, when's that day going to come for me? When's my New Year's Eve coming? When's my countdown starting? And it happens. And I'm not knocking those that have had an awesome start. I think that's a perfect. I think those that are broadcasting their great success is a perfect way to encourage those who haven't. It helps. It helps. But while the facts are the facts, you still deserve a celebration. You still deserve to stand up and shout for joy. You still deserve that, because if you look around you and you look at where you're standing, you're still standing. And if you take a look at the situations that were gripping you and you were holding on for dear life, you're still holding. And you haven't given up. And there have been times when you felt like you're standing and your knees are growing weak from standing for so long. But the hope of the reward that would come from your breakthrough, the hope of the reward that would come from your victory, just gives you the energy to shoot back up and stand all the more. Some of you have lived out that actual quote that says that when you've done all there is to stand, stand the more. And you've done it. And you've taken a grip. But you still might be asking yourself, but when do I get a break, God? When do I get my break of rest? When do I get my Sabbath day? When do I get my chance to gather up my energy? And you're waiting for a break. It's almost like you're waiting for an inheritance to come and say, here you go. Take a week off of work. Enjoy this inheritance. Breathe a little. Kick some bills to the curb. And you're hoping that that's going to happen. But if you take a look at the Bible that I'm reading in Hebrews chapter 12, in verse 12, this is what the Bible tells us. In this scenario, he says, so take a new grip with your tired hands and strengthen your weak knees. Take a new grip with your tired hands. That only leaves me to believe that the only reason your hands were tired was from putting it to the plow. The only reason your hands are tired is because you were relentless in pushing through your obstacle. You were relentless in seeing your breakthrough. And you were so firm and you were so strong on holding on to that by holding on to with all your might, your hands begin to grow tired. All of a sudden now, the grip that you have can no longer contain what it is you're fighting for. And you're still going, and you're still fighting. And you're hoping for a break, but you won't let go, because if you let go, you lose everything you worked for. And so he's saying, take a new grip with those tired hands. In other words, grab a hold to what you first believed in. Get back to what drove you to being where you're at today. Get back to what drove you to following Jesus with all your heart. Get back to the very thing that caused you to say, yes, Jesus, I need you. And take hold of that and get yourself a new grip, because there's much more to do. Because 2016 wasn't the end to anything. It was the kickoff to something. And you need to hold on with a new grip, not the same tired grip that wore you out last year. Not the same tired grip that drained you and gave you thoughts of giving up. Not the same grip that caused you to lose focus here and there. Get a new one. Your knees are tired from standing on the same promises. You've been invading, and you've been standing, and you've locked your feet in. You said, I'm not going anywhere until I see God move. I'm not going anywhere until I see something change. And you have set yourself to do that, but the fact is that your knees are still growing weak, and it's still losing strength. He says, strengthen your weak knees. Put some strength in that. And I'm going to tell you how in just a moment. How exactly do we do that? That's great and all. I get it. Get a new grip. Strengthen your knees. But how? And I'm going to tell you that right now. And in verse 13, I love this. It says to mark out a straight path for your feet. Make it clear. For those who are weak and lame will not fall, but become strong. And the reality of that is that, yes, there are people watching you. There are people who are admiring your strength. They're admiring how you're still going. I mean, they may have given their pity party. They may have tried to comfort you, but at the end of the day, they're just like, how is this person doing it? How are you still standing? You've been believing for this thing since I've known you. You've been fighting for this victory since I met you, and you haven't lost confidence one bit. And there are people watching. But I don't know about you, but I don't want someone to look at me in my standing and say, man, God must really have hope in him. I don't want a kind of pity party. What I want is someone to look at me in my standing and say, man, he must really have his hope in God. He must really hope in God. God doesn't need to hope in me. God set before me what needs to happen. I need to remind myself that my hope is in him and him alone. I need to remind myself that as my knees are getting weak, my hope still remains. And nothing changes about that. Nothing changes about that. As I think about this, the person that comes to mind when I think about in this biblical terms is Job. We know, and there's 40 chapters of turmoil. It wasn't until the very last chapter or last 2 chapters when he responded to God that there was a relief. 40 chapters of turmoil, of constant loss. And I want you to go with me because we're going to take a look at this very first instance of when he encountered calamity in Job chapter 1, verse 13. We'll start right there. You know, Job was a man who feared God, who believed God, who loved God, and God knew that. And then Satan came and wanted to go ahead and test him, and he believed that the only reason why Job was faithful, the only reason why Job was standing strong, the only reason why Job was truly this remarkable man of God was because there was protection around him. And God didn't look on what was the outside. He saw the heart of Job. And he knew from the moment he released Satan to do as he pleased that Job wouldn't move. That Job knew exactly what to do to stand. However, that doesn't change the facts of what happened. Verse 13, are you guys there? Job chapter 1. It says, one day when Job's children were having a feast at the home of their oldest brother, verse 14, a messenger came running to Job. Some of you have some problems chasing you right now, running after you. You can hear them coming. You can feel them coming. You can feel what's about to happen, and they're chasing you down. So a messenger comes running to Job. We were plowing the fields with the oxen, he said, and the donkeys were in a nearby pasture. Suddenly, the Sabeans attacked and stole them all. They killed every one of your servants except me. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. And before he had finished speaking, another servant came. Before he was even done telling him this bad report, another one came. And he says, lightning struck the sheep and the shepherds and killed them all. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. Before he had finished speaking, another servant. 3 bands of Chaldean raiders attacked us, took away the camels, and killed all your servants except me. I'm the only one who escaped to tell. Before he had finished speaking, couldn't even get the words out of his mouth, another one comes. That's 4 things in one incomplete sentence that took place, that struck Job, that shook him at once. I don't know, maybe some of you could relate to that. But I know that I've encountered with my family many times when there's been one thing, and that one thing presents itself, and you think you can handle it, and before you find a solution to that one thing, here comes the other one right before, disrespectful and everything, stopping you in your tracks to remind you of this bad report. And before you can handle now 1 and 2 things, then a third, and before you know it, you have nowhere else to go. You have nothing else to say. You're out of words. I don't even know what to do anymore. Everything that you've learned all of a sudden just disappears. All your fight just goes away. All your this is how I handle pressure, runs out the door. And now everyone around you is a problem. Everyone around you frustrates you. Everyone around you gives you a headache because of a disrespectful issue. So the last one, verse 18, before he had finished speaking, another servant came and said, your children were having a feast at the home of your oldest son, when a storm swept in from the desert and it blew the house down and killed them all. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. Verse 20, then Job got up and tore his clothes in grief. He shaved his head and he threw himself downward on the ground. He said, I was born with nothing and I will die with nothing. The Lord gave and now he has taken away. May his name be praised. And in spite of everything that had happened, Job did not sin by blaming God. See, I believe that in that moment, Job had to do everything in his power to hold on to what he believed. I mean, we're talking about a man that feared God, that loved God, that worshiped God, that would give offerings on behalf of his own children because he wanted his children to be under the protection of God, that sacrificed. And he's sitting here, and all that he knows to be good has gone to trash. All that he has known to be a blessing has now been cursed and has been torn away. And he's standing there, and I can only imagine that at this moment, he is taking the strongest grip of his life. He is planting his feet so firm and so strong because he can't be moved. For a man to hear all of that and to still say, may his name be praised, he can't be moved. He can't be. He can't let go. And some of you are telling yourself that. I will praise the Lord. I can't be moved. I can't let go of what I know. And you see, the facts didn't change. The facts were the facts that 40 chapters of turmoil took place in Job's life. That was indeed true. That happened. It wasn't made up. He didn't wake up from a dream. What God did do was show himself to be the faithful God that he is. And on that last chapter, not only does he restore what was lost, but he gives him a double portion of what was taken. And Job was delightful, and he was filled with joy. And it says that his latter days were better than his first. And that in his older days, he had fullness in his last days. I believe that the attitude that Job had was that he dared to hope again. He dared, after each tragedy, when hope was taken, to come back and say, no, I hope. My hope isn't gone. I will not let this rob me of my hope. Yes, he felt like the world was falling apart. Sure. Yes, he felt like he had lost everything that mattered, and he did. And yes, he felt like he had lost all strength to continue. But the one thing he refrained from was from giving all praise to God. And by that, he dared to hope again. He dared to believe that his God is who he said he was. And that never changes. And if that never changes, then my hope doesn't just disappear. If God is who he says he is, your hope doesn't just vanish. It may be a little blurry. It may feel like it's carrying this residue, but it hasn't gone away. If God is who he says he is, and we believe in a God who is faithful, we believe in a God who is all-powerful, and we believe in a God who restores, then your hope is still alive. And that's what Job had. Go ahead, go in your Bible. I have some more scripture for you. Go in your Bible to Lamentations, chapter 3. And as I was reading this chapter, I almost felt like I was reading a direct translation of like the inner feelings of Job. Of like, this is exact. If Job had to respond in context, in the text, that this would be how he would respond. And I believe that this is a direct translation of how we need to see ourselves to respond when it comes to taking a new grip. Verse 17 says, peace has been stripped away, and I have forgotten what prosperity is. I cry out, my splendor is gone. Everything I had hoped for from the Lord is lost. The thought of my suffering and homelessness is bitter beyond words, and I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. Yet, I still dare to hope when I remember this. The grieving is real. It hurts to think of the suffering. I don't want to think of it. I don't want to think of it because when I think of it, it means that it's true. When I think of it, it tells me that I'm really going through it because I'm reminded of what I had to go through this past year. I'm reminded of all the suffering I had to endure last year. When I think about it, it brings pain because I start getting to this place of grief because I did lose things. I did lose friendships. I did lose a job. I did lose a home. I did lose trust in the person that I trusted the most. I did lose confidence in my qualifications as a person. I did lose hope. I lost all of that. But yet, I'm going to dare to hope. I'm going to tell myself, you better hope. And you do this by remembering this, that the faithful love of the Lord never ends. Verse 22, his mercies, they never cease. Great is his faithfulness. Not conditionally. Not great when it's going well. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. In verse 24, I say to myself, the Lord is my inheritance. Therefore, I will hope in him. Listen, if you're putting your trust, if you're counting on something that's not there yet to pull you through this tough season, and you're waiting on whether it's your job, someone promised you a check, a promotion, you're waiting on a gift, you're waiting on a friendship to become a friendship. If you're waiting on something and you're counting it as an inheritance, as though, in other words, it belongs to me, I'm the direct inheritant of this. This job, it's mine. It's all I know. He says that the Lord is my inheritance. Therefore, I will hope in him. That's all that I hope in. I don't hope on the number 2017. My hope isn't in a number of a year. My hope isn't in the fact that I got to start over. My hope doesn't change because we're in January. We're fasting. Everything starts over. My hope isn't conditional because my God is unconditional. And my God is unconditional, then my hope is unconditional. And my hope never changes. And my hope remains in him. It stays with him. I don't take my hope and put it on a number. I don't take my hope and put it on a relationship. I don't take my hope from him and transfer it elsewhere because he has never done that to me. He has never done that to you. He has never taken what he has given you and placed it on something else that he felt was important. My hope is in the Lord. The Lord is my inheritance. If I receive nothing that was promised from last year, God is still my inheritance. If I receive nothing that someone verbalized to me, God is still my inheritance. If the situation I thought I had victory over somehow seems to turn around, God is still my inheritance. If this season where I thought I was going to be elevated to the next level, if that seems to just not happen, God is still my inheritance. And my hope is still in him. Not for the promotion, not for the victory. The victory was done. But my hope is in him because that's who he is. He's a faithful, great is his faithfulness. See, there's no man, there's no woman on this earth that can give you hope of the unknown for your life. There's no one. That comes from Jesus. Jesus has plans and a purpose for you. He knows. And so when it comes to, I don't know what's going to happen, I'm just going to hope for the best. I don't know if they like the way I work, but I'm just going to hope they do. I don't know if my spouse would forgive me after this, but I'm just going to hope that they do. I don't know if my kids are going to ever know God the way I want them to know God. I'm just going to hope that they do. No. Your hope is in Jesus. In Psalms 39:7 says that, and now, Lord, for what do I expectingly wait? My hope, my confident expectation is in you. And so we know this. We know where our hope belongs. We know that there's no one who will have our back like Jesus. But somehow, when we're facing a trail of circumstances that won't quite seem to leave us alone, that hope just becomes a little bit blurry. And when that becomes blurry, out of fight mode, it's like your instinct is telling you, I need to fight because I'm losing hope, and so I'm going to hold on a little tighter, and your hands are tired. When you think of, we've all seen the Olympics. We've all seen the gymnasts where they go in, they grab their bag of chalk, and they kind of powder their hands. And we're talking about world champions that have done this time after time and time after time again. They know their way around parallel bars. They know their way around the rings. They know their way around these things. And they reach for the chalk and they dust it off. And it seems like every time they reposition themselves, they reach for the chalk as though the first batch of chalk wasn't enough. And you start to wonder, hey, didn't you just put all that chalk? You got residue all over your shirt. You got chalk all over your face, and you're putting more chalk. And what that chalk does is it actually it absorbs the sweat, and it gives them a balance, and it gives them a new grip, and it's their gripping powder, and so there's no chance of slipping. They won't even give it a time of day. They could have chalked once or twice before, but I'm not going to take the chance. An Olympic title is at stake. I'm going to make sure that I have all the grip that I need. I'm going to make sure that I've done all the stretching that I need to accomplish what I need to accomplish. Church, you and I need to make sure we're spending all the time we need with God in order to hold on to what we need to hold on to. We need to make sure that as we're fasting and praying, we're not just focused on our meal plan for 21 days. We're not just focused on, okay, on Monday, I'm eating lentils. On Tuesday, broccoli and carrots. On Wednesday, I'm going to be holy and do a water fast. On Thursday, we're not going to focus on our meal plan of fasting. We're going to get our grip back. This is your time, church. These 21 days, this is your time to take a new grip. This is your chance to strengthen your knees. And if you haven't started on day one, start now. This is your chance. If you're constantly saying, I am so sick of what I had to endure last year, I want to start fresh, then take a new grip. Strengthen those weak knees, because this is your season. And if you believe what you believe, then now is the time to show it. And I guarantee you it will be shown, and it will be revealed. When you take your hope off of a situation and you begin to refocus it back onto the one who gave you that hope, it does something for your vision. It clarifies some things. It's funny how when people who wear glasses and it's funny how the slightest change to the prescription, the slightest change can blur everything. And these aren't my glasses. And you know right away that something has changed. Because something was put out of place. And somehow, it's like this, and you know what? It even causes headaches. It hurts. It's annoying. It's frustrating. And I believe that same thing happens when our focus is shifted off of God, and all of a sudden it's a little bit different, it hurts. It's frustrating. And so we need to correct that by replacing our hope back to where it belongs. Are you guys getting this tonight, church? You know, I'm going to be closing with this, but I know that at times that we feel like, you know, this new start is giving us a chance to re-cleanse. You know, the fast is coming, is giving you a chance to start fresh, is giving you a chance to get a new start. But what if right now we were already preparing for the victory of the following year? What if instead of waiting for the 21-day fast, we began seeking God like nobody's business, that we began reading his word and preparing ourselves for calamity that we already know will take place going into the fast? What if we took a second and said, you know what? I know what's coming. I'm not new to this. All I need to do is get my grip together with God. What if we took the approach of starting before the storm hit? I truly believe that God is reminding us today to do that. We have a chance in these 21 days to refocus. Because maybe you have lost focus, and that's fine, and that's totally fine. You've lost focus. Maybe you have been rubbed the wrong way, and you know what? People are starting to notice. The reality is, listen, the world hasn't come to an end just yet. There is so much to accomplish in this world. Again, it wasn't just Christians that I was having conversations with about last year being a hard year. It was people. It was my barber. It was posts on Facebook. It was blogs. Everywhere you go. That should tell you and I that suffering is still here. That there is a world that needs Jesus. Period. And if we try to approach and be the answer to them with a grip that has no more strength, or with a stance that can no longer stand, we won't be able to become that hope that someone was for us. And now our hope is going to shrink. And so I really believe that God is reminding us tonight, listen, Elevate Church, you were born for this. You were made for this. I have given you and equipped you with my Holy Spirit. Take a new grip. Take a new grip. And get some strength back. Because as you have invaded, now you'll receive. And as you receive, the path that you set out, and the people watching, when they grow weak, and when they can no longer hold on, they'll be able to follow right behind you, and they won't fall. Because you decided to strengthen up. Because you decided to say, you know what, my suffering was real, but my hope still remains. I may be grieving a loss, but yet I dare to hope again. Great is his faithfulness, and his mercies are fresh each morning.
If today's message impacted you in any way, and you would like to help us spread the gospel to others by giving a financial gift, please text the number below, and we know that someone's life will be changed as yours was today.